Good morning, everyone. Today we are examining Ezekiel chapter 7. And as we look at this chapter, it is ascribed to the land of Israel. It's not necessarily ascribed to just a particular city or even just a particular group of people, but rather to the land itself, or to the land to the region of Israel or of Palestine. And that's going to be the audience of this particular message. Picked out a couple of different things from this particular chapter that I think are of value and are important for us to understand and to recognize. The first one is found in verse number 7. In verse 7, God says, Doom has come to you, you who dwell in the land. The time has come, a day of trouble is near, and not of rejoicing in the mountains. And so the point that I want to make here is that when he talks about it being toward the land of Israel, he's not literally speaking of the ground and the earth, but rather the people that dwell in the land, the people that dwell upon it. And some may think that that should be an automatic observation, and yet there have been times where the land itself has been cursed, the land itself has been brought to famine and various other things by the Lord in various areas of punishment. And yet here he's not necessarily talking about the ground and the rivers and things of that nature. He is truly talking about those who live within that region or within that area. And he is simply using the land of Israel as an all-encompassing term for the people that reside within it. And so that is an area that I wanted to be sure that we were clear on as we delve into the things that are said here in chapter 7. Also, down just a couple of verses in verse 9, I think there's a very interesting statement that God makes here when he says, My eye will not spare, nor will I have pity. I will repay you according to your ways, and your abominations will be in your midst. Then you shall know that I am the Lord who strikes. When he's talking about this judgment that he's going to bring on the people of the land of Israel, he says, I will repay you according to your ways. In other words, you're going to receive back what it is that you have given. Well, what was it that they had given? As you go through and you examine, and Ezekiel is even going to lay a number of these things out in the chapters to come, but as you go through and you examine the actions of the people of Israel at this particular time, you find a group of people that are violent toward one another. They have turned their back on God completely in many different ways. They are rebellious. They are ones who have turned the worship to God into something reprehensible. They have shown no respect for God. They have shown only deceitfulness and maliciousness. And God says, I'm going to repay you according to your ways. I'm going to give back to you what it is that you have given to me. Your abominations will be in your midst. In other words, you're not going to be able to hide them. You're not going to be able to leave them behind, but rather they are going to be right there with you as you stand judgment. And they are going to be a full frontal assault before God in the way that he is going to view them and in the way that he is going to respond to them. And so you have this idea that my eye will not spare, nor will I have pity, because I'm going to give to you exactly what you've given to me. Now contrast that with what he says in verse 20. Because in verse 20 he says, As for the beauty of his ornaments, he set it in majesty, but they made from it the images of their abominations, their detestable things. Therefore I have made it like refuse to them. God says, on the one hand, I gave you that which was beautiful. I gave you that which was lovely. I gave you all of the things that you could want and all of the things that you could treasure. But you instead have made from it the images of your abominations. Instead of using it for good, They have taken the good that God has given them and passed or slapped him in the face. I'll get it right in a second. But they've slapped him in the face with it by making out of it these idols, these images, these abominations. And so all of the good things that God has blessed them with, all of the good things that God has given, they have turned and they have made it into something that goes against the very one that gave it to them. Many people are guilty of the same thing today. When God places blessings before them, instead of using them to his glory, they use them to their own glory and turn them into things that God never wanted them to be used for, and into things that go against his will instead of in things that glorify him. And so we need to see the importance of using what God has given us to his glory, not to our own devices, because those things will eventually, as he says here in verse 20, become detestable and become things that are more like refuse than things of value. And it's one of the things that you find about mankind. When mankind takes things and misuses them, that which seemingly had so much value all of a sudden has none. And so it is with Israel in this occasion. These are some of the things that I found in chapter 7. I hope that they will be useful to you, regardless of my tongue-tied abilities this morning. But tomorrow we will pick up and examine Ezekiel chapter 8. But until then, have a great day.